Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. We have to talk, dear Steve, good evening, first of all. We have to talk about the ATP finals, where, careful to what I'm going to tell you, Djokovic and Nadal, the old generation have lost, which means that they may decide to replace also the old journalists. Flink and Scanagata could retire because there is a young generation upcoming.
Ubaldo, I thought of it. I'm thinking the same way you are. We better make use of our time right now before we're discarded for younger reporters.
Yeah. So tell me something. I mean, were you surprised of what happened with Daniil Medvedev winning the ATP finals without losing a match? Or more or less you did expect something like that? I would like you to be honest as usual and tell me which were your predictions before the ATP finals started.
No, actually, I didn't think he would win. I thought Djokovic was going to win the tournament going in. I thought that Medvedev and Tsitsipas, all those guys, and Thiem, I thought they all had a shot. I thought that Djokovic would probably win. I thought Rafa would do well as he did. But no, for him to beat the top three players in the world, nobody's ever done that in this tournament. And to beat everybody, to come from behind in the last two matches, down a set against Nadal and Thiem, win both of those, beat Djokovic in straight sets in the round robin. I can't tell you that I anticipated that. It was very impressive. But Ubaldo, I guess we should have seen some of the signs coming when he won the Paris-Bercy tournament over Thiem in the finals. That was where he kind of ignited his year, because he'd had the disappointment at the U.S. Open, losing to Thiem in the semifinals after going through without losing any sets there. And then he got beaten by Thiem in straight sets and then didn't play well in Paris or Rome. So, but once he won Paris-Bercy, I guess that was the turning point. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. You know, at the U.S. Open, actually, he lost in three straight sets to Thiem. not yet to Flink. I mean, the next future to Thiem. But he served for the second set and served for the third set. So
yes, he did. No, it's true. It's true. But that made it even more disappointing for him, Ubaldo. He felt like he could have won either of those sets, might have won both of them, and that made it very frustrating because going in, the way he had played coming into that semifinal, he was in better form than Thiem, I think. And I thought he was going to win that match going in.
Yeah. Anyway, so I must say that in November he has been unbeaten. I mean, in November it was impossible to beat him, and actually I didn't expect him to beat the top three guys, and you know, the only three ones who had beaten him, the top three players in the same tournament were Becker in Stockholm, and then Djokovic in Canada, I think in Montreal, and Nalbandian in Madrid. But none of those three tournaments were so important like this one.
Exactly. It's a lot harder to do it here, Ubaldo, where you can't let your guard down for, I mean, even when he played Schwartzman in his last round robin match, Thiem lost his last round robin match to Rublev after he'd already qualified. So it was understandable that Thiem had a little letdown. I thought that might happen to Medvedev. Not at all. He handled Schwartzman easily in straight sets. And then, as you mentioned, of course, beat all of the top three. And the Djokovic match was probably the best he played, although Djokovic had a little bit of a walkabout for 7 games. He lost 7 games in a row and he wasn't himself, but Medvedev played almost perfectly that match. And then Nadal serves for the match against him in the semifinals.
Well, he lost his game, a love game when he was up 5-4, and then it's almost unbelievable because Nadal had been serving pretty well during the
he had, but you know what, Ubaldo, that was a weird second set because Medvedev was up 4-1 with a break point for 5-1, didn't convert it. Then he had a game point next game on his serve, didn't convert that, and the next thing you know, he goes down 5-4, and that's when you thought he was gone. It was a strange set because they had 4 breaks in that set. But I agree. You would have thought once Nadal got the break for 5-4 with his experience and winning over 70, 71 matches in a row after winning the opening set, the odds on him not closing it out in a big semifinal against anybody were very slim. And
Yeah.
as you said, he got broken at love. He never had a chance in that game.
Yeah. So anyway, the two semifinals were really uncertain until the last minutes. I mean, if you think that Djokovic lost being up 4-love in the third set in the tiebreaker, and Djokovic had won 24 tiebreakers out of the last 26, and 16 out of the last 17.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, nobody would have expected Thiem to come back and go and make six points in a row, because from down low 4, he went up 6-4, and then he won 7-5.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Djokovic walk up to a net to shake hands with an opponent after a loss more sort of shocked in his mind. I think he was shocked.
Yeah.
He was great. He was terrific. He smiled and hugged Thiem as usual, very sporting. But as he was walking up there, I think he had this look on his face like, I can't believe that just happened. And he you know, Ubaldo, it was mainly Thiem. He started right off with love 4 with the ace, then a forehand winner. Then Djokovic got a little confused on a backhand approach shot. He netted it. He hesitated before hitting it. He probably should have tried to hit it with his 2 hands, and instead he went for the slice and netted it. And so he made that mistake, and he made one backhand error later on. He missed a backhand wide. Otherwise, it was all Thiem just blasting away with winners. It was, and I think Thiem was admitted, Ubaldo, that he said it worked out well today. That worked out well. I think that was his way of admitting that hitting the ball as hard as he was, he could easily have missed a few balls, and Djokovic might have won that tiebreak 7-2 or 7-3. Just
go ahead.
Just a stunning turnaround, Ubaldo. That Thiem could play that unconscious brand of tennis and pull it off, and he did it to Djokovic a year ago on the same court in the round robin when Djokovic was leading 4-1 in the tiebreak and Thiem came back.
Oh, good. Listen, now we should talk about the final, because we mentioned the two semifinals, but this final, I mean, Thiem had a lot of chances to win the second set, in my opinion, after he had won the first. He had 3 break points. One of them, he didn't play well after a drop volley made by Medvedev. I spoke with Thiem after the match, and I asked him if he thought that was the decisive point. He said that ball wasn't that easy. I should have put it in, and I put it out. And probably, of course, it was a very important point, even if he said.
Ubaldo, sorry to interrupt. It's interesting to hear him say that, because I agree with him. I don't think it was that easy. Medvedev was serving and volleying on the second serve, stretched out for the forehand volley that kind of barely got over the net. So Thiem had to come scrambling forward and find a way to steer it by Medvedev, and he should have made it, yes, but it wasn't that easy. But I do believe it was the biggest point, because if Thiem broke there, and he's up a set in 4-3, 2 more holds, and he's off the court. And I think that's probably what would have happened. So that was a very big moment in them. As you say, there were 3 break points, 2-all, 3-all. Those were the chances. But after that, then the tiebreak, Ubaldo, was interesting, didn't you think? Because the first 2 points were won by Thiem. And then he barely missed a forehand passing shot down the line on the 3rd point, trying to go to 3-love. It went a little bit long. It was hit well. I think if he'd made that shot, that might have made the difference too, because Medvedev ends up winning 7 points in a row to take the tiebreak. Just remarkable.
Yeah, he said that. I wonder if, you probably notice all those slice backhands that Thiem was playing. Normally, he has a fantastic topspin backhand, and today was slicing all the time. And then I asked him at the end of the match if he didn't think that maybe he did exaggerate to play that shot, because yes, he was doing that to break the rhythm to Medvedev, who is very tall, pushing him to, to low down a lot in order to play his double-fisted backhand. But at the end, I had the impression that Medvedev got, adjusted. He adjusted his game, and then in the third set.
Ubaldo,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Didn't you feel that same criticism? Many people were saying the same thing about Rafa yesterday against playing Medvedev. Same thing. He went to almost entirely to the slice backhand,
Yeah.
and I thought maybe he overdid it too. I'm not sure why. I'm a little confused why they think they have to use it that much as opposed to, I mean, Thiem and Rafa against Medvedev. Why as frequently as they did it, instead of mixing it in, hit two in a row hard and then the slice, then two slices and then the drive. But this was almost entire. I will say this, Ubaldo, I do like Thiem's slice backhand, though. I think it's a little bit more biting than Rafa's. It really hugs the court. He's got more on it, and but I still would have I still would have preferred that he really ripped it the way we see him doing so often, the way he did beautifully against Djokovic at the end.
Yeah.
There was one cross-court winner at the end that got him to match point, that Djokovic was just frozen, and it looked like Djokovic had a play on it. He couldn't get near it. So I think that's one of Thiem's best shots, and it's too bad we didn't see more of it. Medvedev seems to make them think that they have no choice but to do that against him, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I didn't think about Nadal, but it's true. I had the same impression yesterday. But Thiem said, "Oh, if I will play Medvedev again, I will still play with the slice." So,
okay, all right.
So I don't know. I think probably when you start playing the slice, it's very difficult to change all the time and to go back to the top. To the top spin backhand.
Ubaldo, that's so true. And actually, because you're making me think of Nadal yesterday, when Nadal did try to go back to his two-hander, he missed a lot. He missed badly a few times. Yeah. His rhythm, his own rhythm was thrown off terribly.
Yeah, and I had the impression also that it was mentally struggling more because he had to think all the time to play that slice backhands. Plus, he missed a lot of forehands too immediately afterwards. So normally Thiem doesn't miss all those forehands.
True. Yeah.
This doesn't want to take anything out of Medvedev because Medvedev.
But Ubaldo, the other point I think we should add, they both had tough semifinals yesterday. Obviously, they both went 3 sets. I think that the Djokovic match with Thiem was a little bit more physically demanding. I think it took something away from Thiem. I had the feeling today that he felt he better try to win in straight sets if possible. Medvedev looked a little physically fresher to me. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I almost always agree, so I must be wrong. But what another thing I was Medvedev was clever, and then of course he, as you said, maybe he was fresher because in the third set almost all the opportunities were his. I mean,
yes.
Because he converted finally his 8th break point. He had the 7 break.
And not only that, Ubaldo, not only that, a team started off in the first game, love 30, he held. Then he was down love 40 in the third game, he held. And finally, the next time he served, he gets broken. And Medvedev makes it, I have to hand it to him, Ubaldo, the way he makes the sneak attack to the net. You don't see when he'll make a return of serve and then suddenly decide to come in and he pressures you and you don't know when he's going to do it. He's a very smart, cagey player. We saw that in the 2019 US Open final against Rafa too. He really knows how to mix up his game as well as anybody at the top of men's tennis.
Yeah, correct. Now, since you have been an admirer of Pete Sampras, about whom you wrote just a book, would you like to remember us the name or the title of that book?
Yes, Pete Sampras, Greatness Revisited.
Okay, which you can buy on Amazon, correct?
Right. Yes. Thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah. I was thinking, okay, you were an admirer of Pete Sampras, and of course, everybody in the tennis world has been an admirer of uh, Roger Federer elegance. I wonder, this guy Medvedev is everything but elegant. I mean,
You could.
he's very, how can I say, efficient, solid. I mean, solid, not so much maybe, because sometimes he has some one or two games of blackout, but very versatile, as you say,
Yeah.
clever
Yeah.
player for sure, complete because he has a great serve, I mean, at the end, he's had all the shots. He has all shots. But to look at him is not like looking at Sampras or looking at Federer, to be honest.
No, and frankly, it's not like I don't want to be insulting, but it's not like looking at Djokovic or Thiem or Nadal or anybody else either, because I think you put your finger on it. He's the least elegant player out there. That's no knock on what a great player he is. But
Yeah.
in terms of the aesthetics, just watching him, the pleasure of watching a player, and you mentioned two standouts with Federer and Sampras. No, it's not. He's a different cup of tea altogether. He's a big guy. His forehand is very awkward looking, Ubaldo.
Yeah.
He has a strange take back, and sometimes actually his forehand can go off too. But no, he's never going to be at the top of the list of people love when it comes to simply loving watching them play because of the beauty of their game. But boy, that doesn't mean that he is not a great tennis player, because he is.
Sure. And then he's very unpredictable, because sometimes with this forehand, with this long extension preparation,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you don't understand if he's going to play cross court or down the line. I mean, it's very difficult to predict. That is one of his strengths.
No, it's true. It is. It's hard. It's hard to read him at times, and actually, at the forehand, it's his most complicated shot. And I do think there were times today when that's where he would. Yes, he missed off the backhand too, but some of the worst errors were off the forehand. But because he's so determined and disciplined, he finds his range again. It doesn't go off for very long. You talked about blackouts; they don't last very long. He's right back at you again. Great competitor.
Yeah. Listen, now somebody says that maybe the old guard is gone, or at least there is the change of the guards. Do you think that this will is true? I mean, do you think that next year we will not see Federer winning a tournament, Nadal winning a different tournament than on clay? And who knows about Djokovic? Maybe he's the one who has more chances to win something. What do you think?
Well, I think we got to be careful not to jump the gun, as they say, because look what's happened in this tournament in recent years. Dimitrov won a few years back, very impressive. Then he didn't really follow up that well on it. Most importantly, we had Zverev with a great run a couple of years ago. He beat Djokovic in the finals, and we expected more of him since. He did reach the U.S. Open final this year and came very close, but he's been somewhat disappointing. And then, and then Tsitsipas last year was a great win over once more over Thiem, and we could have wondered then, is this the changing of the guard? But it really didn't turn out that way. So I don't think we should put too much stock in this. On the other hand, Medvedev has ended the year strong. Thiem has now finally won a major at the U.S. Open and came so close here. So you have to believe that these two guys, Ubaldo, are very threatening next year, with Thiem to win a second major and Medvedev to maybe win his first. And so maybe there's going to be a little bit more equity in men's tennis, because I agree with you. We have to expect Djokovic to be still very strong next year. And Rafa will still be hard to beat at the French. But there's going to be some openings at the other, Australia looks to me to be kind of wide open, despite Djokovic winning it 8 times. I think this coming Australian Open, there's a lot.
Uh-oh. Did you push something? Okay, okay, go ahead.
So I think this coming Australian Open is going to be a lot of guys are going to have a good chance.
Yeah, well, you're talking about coming Australian Open. We don't know if it's coming.
True, true.
because they, you know, if they don't change the policy, the government, I mean, they cannot expect players to go there, stay 15 days without practicing, and then play the Australian Open. I mean, because at the moment there is not even the permit to go and practice. You know,
Yeah,
they just say
true.
you have to stay in your room. And
True.
I mean, how can you stay in your room and then play the Australian Open without any training?
We have to hope they can somehow get the tournament played, even if they're a week or two behind schedule, whatever it. I think they're going to try very hard, but you're right. It's very unpredictable.
Yeah. And then anyway, tell me something. Did you have the impression that Djokovic got confused about all what went on his political exposure with the PTPA? I mean, being, you know, accepting the nomination, then find out that he couldn't be elected in the tennis, in the Players' Council. I mean, do you think that had an influence on his results, or you think that he's so strong mentally that doesn't happen?
Well, I don't think it's really the reason that he lost that semifinal. It was a great match and he was unlucky to lose. It was a brilliant performance from Thiem to take it away from him, as Djokovic said. I did have the feeling in the Medvedev match that he was not really there mentally at all. To lose 7 games in a row, that's just not like him. And he looked for a while so maybe it had an effect on him overall, but I do feel like he was really zoned in on his tennis against Thiem and played well enough to win and couldn't quite pull it off in the end. It was a great match.
Even if in this case I slightly disagree, in the sense that I saw Djokovic less aggressive. I mean, he was playing too much in defense. I mean, Thiem was driving the game a lot. I mean, Djokovic.
See, I thought that changed. I thought that changed as the match. I think it was true for a while from the first set into the middle of the second. Then I thought Djokovic started to really take control on his own serve, on his own service games. He began to move Thiem around much more. I thought he raised his game a lot. He just couldn't break his serve. His return was, he was get the return back, good percentage of returns in play, but he was unable to break Thiem's serve. So I guess we saw that a little differently. I did feel he played a high-quality match, which he didn't do against Medvedev. And I think he played pretty well against Zverev also. So it was a little bit of an up-and-down week. And there's no doubt that some of this overall, when you look at what happened against Nadal, that getting crushed in the French Open final, and then the strange performance in Vienna against a very unknown Italian player. I won't even mention his name.
Sonego.
You know, that he wasn't his usual consistent self toward the end of the year, as much as we've come to expect of him. So maybe overall it would, and I think it's admirable, Ubaldo, that he cares so much about this Players Association. It really means a lot to him, and it's not self-centered, because most of what he's talking about is helping out the lower ranked players.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, I think that in the ATP, when you have players and tournament directors or organizers who have the same kind of power, you cannot expect the promoters will help the player, the less good players, because they don't sell tickets, they don't help the tournament too much. So
no, that's a different argument. I agree with you. I'm just saying that from Djokovic's standpoint, you could say, why would he even bother with this? But he obviously cares deeply about it, or else he wouldn't be sacrificing his time for this.
Yeah, his time and his mind. Even if someone thinks or may think that he would like to have that role because in a way he was suffering the charisma of Federer and Nadal, and he would like to be a sort of, to have a role leader, no?
And
To
Ubaldo,
become.
if you don't mind my bringing this up just for a second, it's interesting in light of the Pete Sampras book. But when I interviewed Pete about Novak, and he recollected some of the conversations and meetings he's had with Novak when he's seen him at Indian Wells and other places. One of the things that he told him, and it's in the book, was, don't get too caught up in all the politics. You want to break all these records. The gist of what he was saying was, keep things simple. Don't get too involved in the politics. And it's interesting. And he said that to him in 2019 at Indian Wells. But Djokovic is different from Pete that way. Pete would never be doing this because he felt he had to be 100% committed just to the court. And I understand that. But maybe Novak is paying a price right now for the fact that his mind is so multifaceted.
Yes, I think, Pete was completely different, as you know better than anybody, because, sometimes he was telling you, I want the racket to play, to tell you what I mean, the racket should say what I'm thinking,
Right.
I let the racket talk, I let the racket talk, or something like that.
Right.
Which is not the most interesting thing to say to a journalist, because
no, I understand, but his point to Novak was, you have to be very single-minded to
I know.
You're doing great things, and you want to make all these important historical achievements, and the best way to do it is to keep your mind strictly on your tennis. But that's one man's view versus another, and I think Novak feels Novak probably felt it was good advice. On the other hand, he just knows he has a different mentality.
Yeah, different mentality, and he is more close. I would say he's closer to Agassi in a way, because he is more extrovert. He wants to talk. He wants to to express his opinions. To say what he thinks, whether he's right or not, because many times I disagree completely about what he said, but like, on the Novak's issue and things like that. But, everyone has his own personality. I'd like to ask you a similar question that I asked you about Djokovic. It's about what happened to Sasha Zverev. I mean, with all these issues. I mean, do you think he was he had to pay a price for what happened, even if we don't know, of course, if we should believe?
Well, it's hard to judge that, Ubaldo, because I was amazed that he won the 2 tournaments in Cologne. He almost won Paris, and he had Medvedev down a set. And he didn't play badly in London. He had his win over Schwartzman, which was okay. And Novak eliminated him from the round robin because he'd already been beaten earlier. Sasha had by he'd lost his first match, and it was Novak who took him out of the tournament. But I didn't think he played too badly. I think all things considered, what he's done over the end of the year is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, but. Were you shocked a little bit to read what we all have read about his problems with?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, becoming a father of a girl who apparently doesn't want to have anything anymore to do with him.
Yeah.
That is evident, because that's the only thing that we.
No, it's very sad. It's very sad. You don't want to see somebody of his talent and capabilities, someone who's can be so good for the sport, caught up in a situation like this. And you hope that some of the things that are being said are just not true. And but it must be a very difficult period in his life to have all this stuff in the front page of the sports pages all over the world.
Sure. Listen, I want to end this meeting of ours reminding that we have been talking tonight about the ATP finals, which before, from 1970 to 1989, were called the Masters, which was a much better name on my opinion, but
Yeah.
they couldn't use it because of a copyright problem. And in the Italian TV, I don't know if it happened also in the States, they showed Stan Smith, who was the winner of the first.
Yes, I saw it. I
saw
saw it.
Yeah.
But Stan had much more to say when he spoke to the two of us for one of our long sessions here on your site.
And he showed the trophy, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or he showed the trophy, won in Wimbledon, and then some others. And I'm glad because this was an opportunity for us to remember that there is an Hall of Fame, and Stan Smith is the president, correct?
Right, correct.
While
Correct.
Todd Martin is instead the CEO.
Yeah, CEO, yeah.
Yeah, and we both, me and you, we are in the, how do you call it, in the committee or the enshrining committee, the nominating committee, how do you call it? I never remember exactly what we are, but we should in a way select, help, the names that are going to be voted the next year, correct?
Well, yes, the voting is still going on right now, so we don't know who's going to go in.
Yeah, you did push some button again.
Sorry. Yeah,
okay.
It's my power running low. I'm going to have to plug this in again in a minute. But
yeah,
the voting is still going on right now, Ubaldo.
Yeah, but anyway, our mission, let's say our role, is to help the Hall of Fame to to select the names. I mean, it's more or less, no?
Yeah, we help to determine who's going to go on the ballot. We determine which players and contributors will go on the ballot for the next year. Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You've been there for many years. I am only a newcomer, so it's only the first year. So I mean, I still have to learn exactly what to do. But I'm very honored and proud to be there. I mean.
Yeah, so am I.
And anyway, look, I think we can just conclude. Or you can just conclude something saying, okay, Medvedev deserves to be the master of this year, correct? I mean,
no doubt about it. I mean, to go through that field and not lose a set, and to beat the top 3 players in the world, and to do so deservedly. I mean, they were great wins, and he one of them was decisive over Djokovic, and then he made nice comebacks against Nadal and Thiem. So all credit to him. He earned this victory, and let's hope it will lead him towards some victories at the majors in the coming year. I don't think he has much chance at Roland Garros. Clay seems to be his worst surface. I'm not sure if he can win Wimbledon on the grass, although he might.
He likes to play on grass, and with
he likes it.
The serve that he has.
Yeah, that helps. It helps.
And then he's capable.
But I'm just saying, I'm sorry, Ubaldo. I'm just saying I think his best chances are Australian Open and US Open. Those are his 2 best, with Wimbledon number 3. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I do agree, and thanks a lot for sharing your time with me and with Ubi Tennis. And I will call you very soon in order to do a little review of what went on for the whole year around, the 2020, unfortunately affected by the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ubaldo. I look forward to doing the year in review. That'll be very enjoyable.
Thanks a lot to Steve Flink, great friend, all colleague and Hall of Famer.